Welcome back. In this video tutorial, we are going to be looking at 16th notes, and throughout this book and throughout a lot of the music you learn beyond this book, you will be playing 16th notes, and they are an essential part of music repertoire and fundamental concept in Western music. And the 16th note basically is just 1/4 of a quarter note. And in many pieces of classical music, not all of them certainly, but a substantial number of pieces in classical music have the quarter note as the beat. So if the quarter note, let's say we're in 4/4, which is called common time because it is the most common time signature, 4 quarter notes in one measure, okay? So, and the quarter note will get the beat. So if we're in 4/4 time, we'll have 4 quarter notes and it will sound like this. These are 4 quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now for 16th notes, what we will do is we will count the first beat. We use the number for the first note of each 16th note, and that number will be the beat occurring in the measure. And then following that, we will use an E, the letter E, for the second 16th note, the word and for the third 16th note, and the letter A for the fourth 16th note. So it would be like 1 E and A, or you could say which I say 1 E and A. And then that would be the first beat. The second beat would be 2 E and A. The third beat would be 3 E and A. The fourth beat would be 4 E and A. And now I'll put the exercise number 1 on the screen, and if you look and listen, I will count the beats and play the notes. So I'll count 1 measure for nothing. In music we use that expression. It just means 1 blank measure to set up the basic beat and rhythm. So here's 1 measure for nothing, then I'll play and say the beats and notes for the second, or the exercise number 1. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Okay. Once again, here's the sound of those 2 measures with 1 measure for nothing, just setting up the beat and tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Okay, let's look at exercise 2. And in exercise 2, this is a common format for 16th note patterns. We're making the first section of the beat, the first half, an 8th note, and having 2 16th notes follow. So here we go, 1 measure for nothing, and then the exercise number 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Okay, maybe you could listen to that 1 more time, and you might start to recognize these patterns in music that you're hearing and music that you're playing. So keep your ears open while you're driving, and you're listening to the radio, or at home listening to the radio, or going for a jog or whatnot. Try to listen for the rhythms, and you'll find, actually, if you're aware of it, many of these rhythms occur in a lot of pieces of music and a lot of popular music, etc. So here 1 more time is exercise number 2. 1 measure for nothing to start us off. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and times we will just subdivide, that is, break up the beat into smaller units for our counting only when we have those units occurring. We don't necessarily need to subdivide. It takes a lot of mental energy to subdivide quarter notes, and it's not necessary. You wouldn't necessarily count 16th notes. This is a side note, by the way, but it's an important side note. You wouldn't necessarily count 16th notes in that first measure of quarter notes. You wouldn't necessarily have to do 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and you could do that for practicing, but practically speaking, when you're playing music or reading music, it might drain your mental energy, so to speak. So when you see quarter notes, you just need to count 1, 2, 3, 4. If you are in a time signature like 4/4 or 3/4 or 2/4, etc. Okay, moving on. Let's look at exercise 3. And in this exercise, we are going to have 2 16th notes followed by an 8th note. Again, this is one of the most common patterns for 16th notes in music. And listen for this in this example now that I'll play, but also listen to it in music that you yourself are playing, and also in music that you're hearing just out in the world. Okay, here we go. Exercise 3, 1 measure for nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and Okay, one more time here. Exercise 3. 1 and 1 measure for nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and Fantastic. Okay. Let's now look at the 4th exercise in this book. And in the 4th exercise, we're going to have a very common pattern where we have a dotted 8th note followed by a 16th note. And as a side point here, the dotted 8th note will be equal to 3 16th notes. A dot to the right of a note adds half of the value of the particular note. So if an 8th note normally is equal to 2 16th notes, it will be equal to 2 plus 1 16th notes if we add a dot, 3 16th notes total. So here we go with this one. 1 measure for nothing for exercise 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and Okay, one more time for exercise 4. 1 measure for nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and Well, wonderful work here. Now on your own, please go through these patterns and try out the exercises on this page, and we will see you in the next video.